He would have every right to, given she returned the engagement ring via post, having dumped him by...
Future parents tied the knot at a beach resort in Montecito, California in May 2019, about 1 year.
She married for money. It's very clear she bagged the elephant. She was thrilled. She became a, quote, princess.
Well, you can...
Knows Greece and Mexico. Kensington Palace officially announced that Prince Harry and Meghan were a couple in November 2000.
Dumped him by text message. No. He was actually trying to protect her and
demanded her husband Trevor pay for a personal trainer and a nutritionist to help her bounce back if and when
they're hobnobbing with the Kardashians. Like,
right, but so don't go.
It's just, listen,
general frustration with this idiot idea that Harry and Meghan have that they need to be statespeople and that they need to insert them.
She then tried to up the ante and turn it into something it wasn't. And what?
Imagine being dumped by text message, an impersonal, cold way to end what you thought was a meaningful relationship. Most people would be justified in feeling hurt, betrayed, or even furious after receiving an engagement ring back in the mail, no less. But in this case, there's a twist that flips the whole story on its head. Instead of bitterness or anger, the man involved was actually trying to shield the woman from something much heavier, something she might not have been ready to face head-on. It's a deeply human moment, filled with complexity and nuance, and it demands we hear the whole truth directly from the source. That's where Angela Lee comes in, ready to peel back the layers and share every angle of this tale. Now, take a look at this vision board featuring pictures of Prince Harry. Intriguing, right? It immediately sparks curiosity. What could it mean? What ambitions or dreams did it encapsulate? These visual cues offer more than just surface-level insight. They hint at deep hopes, questions, and stories waiting to unravel. And through it all, one man stands quietly at the center of it.
Palace officially announced that Prince Harry and Meghan were a couple in November 2016 after a few months of dating.
Wouldn't do to hear the truth from the horse's mouth. So, we'll get into this with Angela Lee.
Engaged, like the wedding was already, being planned by the time they were trying to arrange, let's say, a meeting right before the wedding.
This is what a royal wedding looks like. And this is what Meghan Markle's first wedding looked like, as far from a royal...
Sought freedom. For William, one imagines, a deep sense of disappointment.
This vision board, which included pictures of Prince Harry on it. Isn't this fascinating?
He married nutritionist Tracy Kurland in a low-key ceremony in California earlier this month. All right, Charlie, thank you.
Spoken on the record, but man, oh man, what we wouldn't do to...
Know about Meghan's first marriage? Why did it end?
Long-distance relationships, especially in the entertainment industry, are very...
From pure Aryans, why can't I be the girl that has a dash of something else? And then...
Trevor Engelson. Not just a footnote, but a successful TV producer and literary manager with his own life, family, and trajectory. What's remarkable is how Trevor's experience perfectly positions him to navigate this story. After graduating from USC, he didn't wander aimlessly. Instead, he worked tirelessly, carving out a respected name in one of the toughest industries on the planet, the entertainment world. His credits include the critically acclaimed FX series Snowfall, a show praised for its intricate, multi-layered storytelling that ran for 6 seasons. He also produced the 2010 film Remember Me and honed his skills as a literary manager, a role where spotting powerful stories and understanding how to bring them vibrantly to life is everything. Think about that for a moment. Here is a man trained in journalism, a producer who knows exactly how to shape compelling narratives, and a literary manager who fully grasps the impact of telling the right story at the right time.
And obviously Trevor Engelson is a very successful TV producer. He now has his own family. He claims that Meghan Markle's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, got back in contact
in the right way. This is not someone who accidentally stumbles into revealing the past. He approaches everything with strategy, awareness, and full control over his narrative. That context makes the current buzz all the more fascinating. Sources say multiple publishers are circling Trevor with significant offers, not because this is the drama of a hurt ex seeking a quick payday, but because he brings an unparalleled mix of intellect, industry expertise, and real, lived experience to craft a story that will resonate deeply and authentically. This is a man ready to tell his side with precision, weight, and intention. And trust me, this is only the beginning that could truly change how the world sees Meghan Markle. This wasn't going to be just a stroll down memory lane or some nostalgic recollection. No, Trevor was preparing to put forward a compelling narrative, one that would challenge the popular versions, adding layers of nuance and depth. What sets Trevor apart from every other voice speaking about Meghan is simple but profound. He knew her first.
Particularly like going down that thread, but definitely how she was raised has an impact because that impacts all of us.
The Suits star was married to Trevor Engelson, a film producer, but they split in August 2013. They were together for...
Before the glitz of Suits, before the spotlight that Toronto cast on her, before the whirlwind of royal headlines and global interviews like Oprah's, even before her groundbreaking Netflix deals, Trevor had an insider's view. He witnessed Meghan's journey up close, as she was still growing into the person she longed to become before the world really understood her. This isn't the kind of insight you glean from tabloid gossip or surface-level stories. It's embedded in the little things. The whispered conversations, the private dreams she confided only to a trusted few, the quiet moments that never made it into any public retelling or polished, rehearsed interview. Those details remain locked away in his memory, a treasure trove of intimate knowledge. His former co-workers remember him as calm, considered, someone who chooses his words with care and does not act on impulse. The silence he maintained for years after one of the most public and painful breakups imaginable speaks volumes about his character and restraint. Sources say he never even saw the split coming.
About how Meghan was going to snare Harry when they first met. Absolutely fascinating stuff.
Let me have it, gets his hands on it, messages Meghan and says, I have this. And all of a sudden, she's willing to communicate with.
Instead of reacting publicly or with bitterness, he internalized the shock, took time to heal, and went on to rebuild his life and career quietly but effectively. Still, the opportunities to speak out keep coming, offers that multiply as Meghan's fame and influence continue to grow. In this game, silence can be a kind of currency, and the longer Trevor holds back, the more explosive and game-changing any disclosure might become. So, when we consider what Trevor Engelson might be preparing to reveal, let's be clear. This isn't idle gossip or petty rivalry. This has the potential to reshape the entire narrative, shaking up what the world thinks it already understands, and it all traces back to the very beginning of their story. Their connection didn't spark in some negotiating room or at a flashy Hollywood get-together. It unfolded quietly, authentically, the kind of love story that feels grounded and real. They started dating in 2004,
Cite on something, and so many people over the years have said about Meghan, well, even Harry started reciting it. I'm sure Meghan fed.
She doesn't explain, and I mean, I'm slightly aware.
Back when neither of their names carried the weight they do today. No media stunt, no PR spin, no calculated announcements. Just two individuals gradually discovering each other, building something genuine and private, far from the prying eyes of fame. By 2011, Trevor was ready to take the next step and make their commitment official. And on August 16th of that year, the story took a big leap forward, setting the stage for everything that would come next. The couple exchanged vows at the picturesque Jamaica Inn in Ocho Rios, a place seemingly plucked straight from a fairy tale. From every account shared by those lucky enough to be there, their wedding was nothing short of magical. Picture this: a sun-drenched celebration where the ocean breeze whispered softly through palm trees. Friends and family gathered in joyful unity, and the golden sand became their dance floor as the day faded into night. Meghan's closest friends surrounded her, her maid of honor standing proudly by her side, an enduring symbol of support and love. Trevor's eyes shone with genuine affection, clearly deeply captivated by Meghan's radiant happiness. That day, everything about their union radiated warmth and promise. If anyone were to predict their future, it surely wouldn't hint at the quiet struggles lurking just beneath the surface.
Trevor Engelson had told a very close friend of hers that Meghan Markle had this vision.
He said his ex was a woman from a show called Suits. I didn't know what the show was. I didn't know the woman. Months later,
But, as is often the case, the first cracks in their relationship didn't announce themselves with clamor. Instead, they began subtly, almost imperceptibly. Meghan's demanding role on the hit Showtime's Suits Times required her to spend nearly 9 months every year in Toronto. To call this a long-distance relationship almost undersells the challenge. This was more like living 2 lives in parallel, each unfolding thousands of miles apart, with only brief, precious moments where their worlds touched. While Trevor was busy carving out his own path in Los Angeles, Meghan was building a new identity thousands of miles away, physically separated by an ocean, but, more painfully, alienated by widening emotional gap. This growing distance was more than just miles on a map. It was an invisible chasm that quietly eroded their bond. Royal biographer Lady Colin Campbell, who explored Meghan's journey in her book Times Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, provides poignant insight into how Meghan's life in Toronto led her to new social circles that felt polished, vibrant, and markedly different from the relaxed, familiar energy she shared with Trevor.
she herself is fully aware of who she is, so you can't be exact. I can be authentic exactly who
I believe Trevor Engelson is a good headline. I mean, a good human. How many headlines could he have received?
Central to this transition was her deepening friendship with stylist Jessica Mulroney, which anchored her in this new, refined world. Campbell's portrayal of the couple sheds light on their evolving differences in vivid detail. Trevor was described as laid back, sometimes even carefree enough to arrive a little late or looking slightly unkempt. Meghan, by contrast, was the portrait of control, always punctual, impeccably put together, and exacting in her expectations. Here were two very different rhythms, two opposing forces that might have harmonized beautifully in one chapter of life, but soon revealed their discord as priorities shifted and tides changed. Most importantly, this wasn't a drama-filled story of betrayal or scandal flashing in bold headlines. Instead, it was a more subtle, perhaps even more painful truth that sometimes people who once built a life together begin to grow in different directions, their paths diverging despite the love that once held them close. Meghan was evolving with remarkable speed, adapting to new roles and environments, and in doing so, she began leaving behind the life she had constructed alongside Trevor.
Has threatened to release.
Yes, absolutely. So this is Meghan's wheelhouse. This is what she does.
The future parents tied the knot at a beach resort in Montecito, California in May 2019, about one.
It's a quiet, relatable tale of change, growth, and the bittersweet realization that not every love story follows the path initially imagined. The path Meghan was heading down was simply moving in a direction that couldn't hold what she and Trevor had shared. As biographer Andrew Morton would reveal much later, whether Meghan fully acknowledged it to herself or not, she was quietly constructing a whole new universe, a world fueled by rising celebrity, fresh ambitions, and a vast, unfolding vision of who she wanted to become. And in that evolving vision, Trevor Engels had slowly, almost invisibly, been erased. Yet he was completely in the dark. To him, they were merely experiencing a rough patch, a temporary setback in a marriage he believed could weather any storm. He clung to the hope that the distance between them was something they could bridge, that the strain was just a minor hurdle in the grand scheme. But that hope was tragically misplaced. His realization came in a way so jarring, so profoundly cold, that it shocked everyone who later heard the story. Some breakups leave scars, but there are others that feel like a sudden, icy void, so cold and final, so stripped of kindness that they haunt people for years to come.
And moved to the United States. The couple who are expecting their second child have been stripped of their patronages and...
She is a malignant narcissist who cannot get enough of herself while she simultaneously plays.
What Trevor endured falls unmistakably into that second category, and once you learn the details, it's hard to erase them from your mind. He wasn't given a heartfelt conversation, a phone call, a face-to-face meeting, or even a simple message explaining where their relationship was heading. Instead, what showed up on his doorstep was a package. Inside, his wife's wedding ring and engagement ring, returned like unwanted relics from a past life. No note, no explanation, no goodbye, just silent, physical symbols of a story abruptly ended, sent back without ceremony. Andrew Morton, a leading royal biographer, put this moment on record in his 2018 biography, Meghan, a Hollywood Princess. The scene was stark. Meghan made her decision and communicated it by sending the rings through the mail, no warning, no chance to talk it out. The aftermath? Those close to Trevor described his reaction as shattered, not simply hurt or sad, but utterly, devastatingly broken. And this wasn't just speculation, it came from insiders who spoke to The Sun Times in 2017. From someone who once stood side by side with Meghan.
These are complicated issues, and I'm somewhat familiar with these because there's
They're not really tight anymore. They're not really in touch. Now, he was very careful about how he did this, and you've sort of got to read between the lines.
This moment was a profound rupture, an irrevocable end delivered in silence and solitude. Trevor Engelson's next move wasn't your typical Hollywood hustle, it was more like a masterclass in subtle reinvention. Tapping into his impressive TV background as a producer on Time's Modern Family, Time's a show that's considered prime television pedigree, he crafted a bold, clever pitch that instantly captured attention. The project was framed around a character forced into co-parenting after his ex-wife unexpectedly marries a British prince. The official story carefully emphasized that none of the lead characters were directly based on real people, but anyone tuned into Hollywood's undercurrents understood the unmistakable real-life inspiration behind it. The genius of Trevor's pitch wasn't just in its surface narrative, but in what lay beneath an artistic way to channel complex emotions without ever outright stating them. This was more refined than a bitter retaliation. It was Trevor's way of communicating everything he couldn't openly share, his frustration, bewilderment, and sense of loss disguised cleverly within the safety of fiction and humor. Imagine the emotional turmoil, witnessing the person you once loved transform into an international figure almost overnight and being constantly and publicly measured against royalty. All those feelings, the embarrassment, the surreal distance from his past life, compressed into a single pitch that made waves as it crossed desks in one of Hollywood's top agencies. Despite the buzz, the project never moved beyond the initial development phase. No pilot was shot, no episodes were greenlit, and it now sits in the vault of unproduced ideas. But really, that was never the primary objective. The real achievement lay in the statement Trevor made, that he possessed a compelling story to tell, and more importantly, the skill to tell it in a way that demanded notice. It showed resilience and professionalism more than anything else. What this entire move revealed about Trevor Engelson is profound. He's not someone stuck wallowing in the past. Instead, he's a person who took his personal experiences, sifted through the emotions, shaped them into creative fuel, and used that to reassert himself as a storyteller with something valuable to share. That fire, the drive to transform challenge into opportunity, doesn't fade away with time. If anything, it grows stronger. And this brings us to an unexpected chapter in this saga, one that took place far from the glitz of Hollywood in Chicago, a conversation that caught many off guard. When you think of names linked to Trevor Engelson and Meghan Markle's story, Bethany Frankel probably doesn't immediately spring to mind. But somehow, here she is, right at the heart of this unfolding narrative, playing a surprising role that would add new layers to an already intricate story. Now, here's one of the most quietly game-changing moments in this entire story, one that didn't come from a palace official, royal insider, or a tabloid exposé, but from the most unexpected place, a casual encounter at an exclusive members-only club in Chicago. This is where Bethany, a figure who might have gone unnoticed until now, dropped a bombshell that changed how we see the whole picture. On an episode of the Toast podcast, aired on the 12th of November 2025, hosted by Claudia Oshry, Bethany revealed that she had crossed paths with Trevor back in 2016 at Soho House. Yes, the trendy hotspot where stars and elites often mingle. Why does the year 2016 matter? Because that was the very same year Meghan Markle and Prince Harry began their relationship, a romance still fresh and unofficial, a whisper on the wind rather than the headline of global fascination. The world hadn't yet connected those pieces. The story was still unfolding quietly in the background. During that encounter, Trevor mentioned something offhand that seemed almost trivial at the time. His ex-wife was an actress on a TV show called Suits. Bethany admitted she didn't even know what Suits was, let alone who Meghan Markle was. To her, it was just a casual part of a broader chat, one of those minor details you hear and forget as soon as the conversation moves on. But here's where it gets interesting: that seemingly insignificant detail took on a new life later. When the whirlwind of media coverage started swirling, photos of Harry and a mysterious woman appeared everywhere, and speculation intensified. The internet did what it does best, piecing together clues with relentless curiosity. Bethany, seeing those photos, suddenly remembered Trevor's casual mention. Something clicked in her mind, and she instinctively pulled out her phone to confirm her suspicion. The message she sent was simple and direct. "Is this your ex?" Trevor's reply? One word: yep. No drama, no added context, no emotional weight behind it. It was delivered with the casual tone of someone answering a question about the weather, completely unaffected and unruffled. That single confirmation opened up a whole new layer of understanding, but the conversation didn't stop there. Bethany pressed further, asking the question that would reveal perhaps the most insightful response in this entire saga. Do you think she'll close the deal? In other words, would Meghan actually secure her place? Would she truly become part of the British royal family, walking down the aisle to fully join that world? Trevor's response wasn't detailed, but the mere fact that the question was even posed speaks volumes about how those close to the story viewed Meghan's chances at that pivotal time. As for Trevor's own journey since then, life has moved forward in impressive ways. He and his new wife have built a family, welcoming their third child, a son named Logan Stanford Engelson. Friends and colleagues describe Trevor as thriving, respected in his career, content in his personal life, and reportedly in a stronger financial position than ever before. This chapter in his life serves as a quiet, steady counterpoint to the glamour and frenzy surrounding the royal romance story, a reminder that life keeps unfolding in many different, intersecting paths. At first glance, many might jump to conclusions about why Trevor Engelson might consider putting pen to paper and sharing his side of the story. After all, this isn't a man desperate for fame or struggling to get by financially, far from it. Trevor has already crafted a life after Meghan that's rich, meaningful, and successful, independently of his former marriage. So, if he chooses to write or speak out, you can be sure it won't come from a place of bitterness or neediness. Instead, it will be a deliberate, measured choice, carefully weighed and intentional. And that, in itself, is exactly why those around Meghan reportedly feel uneasy. Think about it. An angry ex might make noise, but you can brush it off. A desperate ex might be dismissed easily. But what happens when the ex is calm, grounded, financially secure, and has the professional chops to back up his story? Trevor is that rare combination. He's trained in journalism, experienced in Hollywood's storytelling machine, and carries with him over a decade of unique perspective on Meghan's life before she became a global figure. As Meghan's public profile grows, her shows, brand deals, and carefully managed public image, there's a certain value, an almost magnetic pull, toward the unfiltered, untold version of her story. And the only person who can provide that viewpoint with authenticity? Trevor Engelson. Now, the real question isn't if the story exists, because it certainly does. It's whether Trevor will choose to share it or keep it locked away. There's an undercurrent running through this entire saga that might not be glaringly obvious at first, but once noticed, it becomes impossible to ignore. Those closest to the Sussex circle have reportedly sensed this pattern for some time. Let's rewind to Trevor's side first. He loved Meghan truly and deeply, and he supported her ambition even when it came at a personal cost, like spending 9 months of the year apart while she pursued her career. He believed in their marriage, even as, according to those close to him, her heart and mind had begun to drift elsewhere. And when Meghan made the decision to end things, Trevor didn't learn it through drama or confrontation. Instead, it arrived via a quiet package in the mail. No warning, no heartfelt talks, just a clean break orchestrated on her terms, a decision that left no room for his feelings or input. Then, cast your gaze toward Harry. In January 2020, he made a seismic shift, stepping away from the British royal family, the very institution that had shaped him since birth. He walked away from his royal title, his public duties, and even his military career, which had been central to his identity for so long. This dramatic exit symbolized a break not just from tradition, but from a life carefully scripted for him since childhood. It was a sacrifice and a reinvention, wrapped into one bold move. During his teenage years, he began to pull away gradually but unmistakably from his father, his brother, the extended family, and even the country where he was raised. It was as if the familiar world he once knew no longer fit the person he was becoming. Seeking a fresh start, he made a bold leap and moved all the way to Southern California. There, he and Meghan launched Archwell, a unique blend of non-profit and commercial projects crafted carefully around their shared hopes and dreams. This wasn't just a new business, it was a completely new chapter, painstakingly written from scratch with the future they envisioned for themselves at the center. Every step he took, every risk he faced, it all felt like it was for Meghan and the life she had imagined for the both of them. But as days passed, and behind the glossy headlines, whispers began to surface, bits of information leaking out that started to paint a more complicated, even uneasy picture. Staff who had worked closely with Meghan shared stories revealing a side of her that felt familiar, deeply human, yet unsettling. A recent Vanity Fair article reported that while Meghan can be warm and engaging, there are moments when she's described as distant, guarded, even cold. This atmosphere reportedly weighed heavily on those around her, pushing some to seek therapy, while others quietly made their exits. Meanwhile, Harry's role within their joint ventures seems to be shifting too. What once appeared to be an equal spotlight now seems to be dimming on his presence, with far less attention or influence directed his way. Then there's the matter of books. Occasional rumors have melted into more solid reports, suggesting Meghan's team was considering a memoir or narrative that would focus on her life after a potential divorce. What makes that especially striking is the timing. These talks apparently took place while their marriage was still in full swing. The parallel to what Trevor experienced couldn't be clearer. It's like watching the blueprint for a fresh world being sketched out quietly beneath the surface of a world that still stands tall. Trevor's own friends captured it plainly. Meghan is an architect of new worlds, and when she constructs these fresh realities, those who once belonged to her past rarely come along for the ride. For Trevor, she was everything until Toronto called her away. The royal family held that place until Montecito beckoned, and now, Harry occupies that role, her partner, collaborator, and most visible presence alongside her. The question everyone dances around, yet secretly wonders, is the one Trevor's story forces us all to face. What happens when the next chapter calls out? For now, Harry himself has never hinted that he might be next on this ever-shifting journey, but the silence on this question speaks volumes all on its own. He's a man who moves with quiet precision, measured, deliberate, and decidedly distant from the whirlwind that seems to envelop the Sussex household. His days are filled with a calm that contrasts sharply with the constant storm outside. He has built a life grounded in stability, a loving family, a fulfilling career, and a serene personal space that remains untouched by the drama dominating headlines. While others scramble, he stands firmly rooted in his own world, unchanged, unshaken. This is not a story that needs an explanation or a flashy headline. It doesn't come with a warning or dramatic soundtrack. It simply exists, clear and undeniable for those who care enough to look closely. And if Harry is paying attention, and it's safe to assume he is, he already understands, on a deeply personal level, what receiving an unexpected package in the mail can symbolize. It's one of those heavy metaphors, loaded with unspoken meaning. So here's where we find ourselves, a man who loved Meghan Markle long before the rest of the world even knew her name. Their story began quietly, filled with hope and possibility, only to later unravel without the usual conversations or closure, just a few rings, a mysterious package, and silence. There was a TV pitch that spoke volumes in ways he couldn't say aloud, a short two-word prediction about her that turned out to be uncannily accurate, and now talk of a forthcoming book that could reshape the entire narrative people think they know. Trevor Engelson never signed up to be the center of any scandal or gossip. Instead, he was simply the opening chapter in a saga that has since grown into something much more complex, one that now includes royal palaces, massive Netflix deals, high-profile interviews, and an ongoing metamorphosis that shows no signs of slowing down. Back then, before the machinery of fame and media spun into full motion, it was just two people building something genuine, a connection untouched by the pressures of later ambition and public scrutiny. That's why Trevor's story carries weight, not because it offers explosive palace secrets or startling revelations, but because it represents something far rarer: authenticity. His portrayal of Meghan Markle captures the person who existed long before the narrative was tightly controlled, before every move was choreographed, and before the world was given a carefully edited glimpse into her life. Every documentary, every interview, every public appearance since has been filtered through a lens meticulously managed by Meghan herself. Trevor's account, however, offers a unique, unfiltered window, one that feels startlingly honest and refreshingly real. This is the subtle but undeniable reason why her closest circle is now watching him with intense focus. It's not about one juicy secret or shocking bombshell. It's about a perspective, a truth, an insight only he's ever had access to, something that no other lens, no matter how powerful, could ever capture. That silent power, that quiet ownership of a story no one else can tell, is what sets him apart and keeps everyone guessing about his next move. Meanwhile, the man himself keeps a surprisingly low profile: 3 kids, a solid and supportive marriage, and a career that marches on steadily, untouched by the storms that once threatened to overwhelm him. He's been through a chapter so difficult it nearly broke him, but instead of crumbling, he rebuilt himself from the ground up stronger, wiser, and far more grounded than before. This isn't a man battered by bitterness or desperation. No, this is a man standing tall, firm, and composed, speaking from a place of genuine strength, not wounds. That distinction couldn't be more significant. If and when he chooses to share his story, it won't be dismissed as the ramblings of a person unable to move on. Instead, it will be heard as the thoughtful and intentional unveiling of someone who has already let go completely and yet still believes the truth, the whole truth, is worth revealing. There's so much tied to the returned rings, the silent acts of reclaiming control, the cryptic messages that once seemed like casual slips but now hint at something far bigger. Even the 2 words that foreshadowed a royal wedding, the layers run deep. And somewhere, perhaps still hidden away or yet to be born, lies the manuscript, a powerful collection of everything Trevor witnessed, seen through his eyes, blending the private moments with the global spectacle that the world was never meant to see. History has a way of looping back on itself, of bringing quiet voices into the spotlight when the time is right, and when he finally decides to speak, there's little doubt his voice will be the loudest in the room. Trevor Engelson has chosen silence for a very long time, but now, as the story edges toward a new chapter, the world waits. And if this tale resonates with you, if you feel the weight of what's unfolding, then you know what to do. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, because we want to hear your take. Will Trevor put pen to paper and write the book? Is someone powerful paying attention? What happens next? The conversation starts here. And if you're new around here, Welcome, that's exactly what we're about. Diving deep into the stories behind the headlines, unveiling the details nobody else talks about but that explain everything. Make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming next. Because when that book deal is finally announced, and trust me, it will be, you'll want to be front and center. Until then, we'll see you in the next video.